I have 8 people in the film, and they're 8 years old to 81 years old. They're kind of like in my book also. And I wrote a little poem that I'm going to read you that introduces those 8 people. That will be in the credits at the end. And so the title of the poem is 8 People from 8 to 81. An Iranian boy, Italian artist, black Muslim, and an elegant Chinese man. A Dominican, a South African, ex-Mormon, and me. And you'll recognize me because I'm wearing the same shirt.
Thank you so much for introducing and for staying now for the Q&A. We wait one more second to have the people leave who don't want to stay. Maybe let's start from your introduction, telling us that this is the parts of the diary that was not non-existent. So it's something personal and something that is connected with the memory. And I was wondering which of the layers that you were adding or superimposing were there first? The songs or the times, the years, or the speeches?
I think I gathered the speeches together first, and there were many that I chose from. But I tried to get a variety of voices of politicians, most of that I don't admire. I find the child's voice very disturbing from the point of view that she's very committed, but I don't trust her. But that makes me have a whole bunch of other questions about how can we get information to people, and maybe she's very committed, and I was afraid of brainwashing my own child, and I think children need to figure things out on their own and probably have better solutions. But so her presentation is very adult-like, which I found interesting. I like her, by the way. I think we need more of her.
But then how did you search for the speeches? How did you also find them?
Of course, I had some of my, Stokely Carmichael is a person who affected my own life. I met him in the mid-60s. So there's people that I engaged with, or I was dealing with certain radical politics that was informed by those particular people. And then, I used Reagan, who's this good old boy voice. Oh, geez, we might have done something wrong, but we were trying to do something right. So I tried to find different kind of people. The honesty of Clinton, I think, is really interesting to admit to what they brought about. And I don't know, it's so depressing, this film.
Agreed. maybe also depressing because we are so used to find so many solutions on screen, but we only get questions here, I think.
Well, it's also so depressing because of the state of politics in the world at this very particular moment, and especially in my own country where people don't seem to be speaking up, including myself. We think, what can you do? And I come from a class of people that supports Trump, poor whites that have been left behind by any kind of political system, and Trump is very good at making believe he will help those people, or they're angry enough to just say, fuck it, let's bring it to its knees. And, so that it's all very confusing time. And it's gotten worse since I finished this film last summer, and now it seems
When
really,
did you start it?
I made it last spring because I wanted to make a film, but I was so engaged in this writing that I thought I'll make a film that I can make in the corridor of the school that I teach, and we can open the back door and let light come in, and so everything's lit just from natural light. And I thought, I need a pastime to not think about these awful things, so I'll be a little boy and build models. So it's...
You did not succeed because Trump was on the horizon, of course, already.
Yeah.
You were there for the opening of the Berlinale. Did you hear Tilda Swinton speak?
I was going to go, and then I thought you had to have a dress code or something.
We're Berliners, so don't take it that seriously.
I was afraid I wouldn't get in.
The least thing you should be afraid of at this opening.
Well, I hope it spoke to these issues.
It did. It also is it kind of repeats something that is also part of the film. It's speeches, and it's kind of also a history of rhetorics or of political rhetorics. Did you look at it that way also?
Yeah, of course, and the kind of, Stokely Carmichael is such a good speaker in the way he uses repetition and this kind of thing, that when I engaged with him in the 60s, I was very taken by his actual rhetoric, and of course, what he was behind. And then also Chavez, that speech is just straightforward, how farm workers are being used as animals, basically, and with no real rights. And 40% of the labor, farm labor in California, is illegal, undocumented, and that's what keeps the costs down to make large corporate profits, because 80% of those farms in the Central Valley are run by corporations that have subsidiaries, so you don't know that it's an insurance company or a bank that's actually they're getting the profits from farming, and it's a water system that's paid for with public money, both federal and state, so they get the cheapest water, cheapest labor, and make huge profits. And the people doing that labor, it's really hard, hot, full days of labor. So you have hard-working people living in poverty. So they don't have time to fight this war that we need to fight, And of course, the illegals aren't voting, but they're paying towards Social Security and these kinds of things, but don't collect any of those benefits. So, it's interesting that now all we pick on, that's the bad guy. But I think that model has been used before.
Speaking of models, what's this thing with the models? What are these? What is this architecture?
They're actually engaged railroad models, and I, if you know my films, you know I'm interested in railroads. And as a kid, I liked model railroading, and it's this kind of activity that you can just indulge in, and it's for me, it's really boyhood for me, and so I thought it's this kind of innocence set against what's really happening, and I like that. I think it's a demanding film, but after a while, I think you realize, oh, this is about listening to speeches. Let's not be fooled.
You wrote the short synopsis for this film and the long synopsis and also the interview, and it sounds like this: a film looking at the past to warn about the future from a little boy's point of view, a companion piece to American Dreams Lost and Found from 1984. And so I rewatched, of course, American Dreams Lost and Found, and we were talking about how is it a tough watch or is it tough listening, and this film certainly is a little bit easier by taking out one layer, the written one. And also I found that so far I've been thinking of you as the filmmaker who is this model watcher or viewer, and it was all very much linked to the vision. And in this film, I found you or discovered you as a great listener. And it does not only concern, of course, the speeches, but also the music. So is that if the models are the boyhood, is the music the manhood, or?
No, I mean music. I mean there's one of the songs is "Dancing in the Street," and that was a song that was very popular in the mid-'60s when there was. It's a Motown song from Detroit, but it was banned from the radio for playing because those in power thought it was encouraging the rioting that was taking place in the mid-'60s in America, dancing in the street, this idea. So I thought, oh, I like using, I mean, and then the most direct song is Little Boy, What Little Boy of Mine, What Did You Learn in School Today by the great Pete Seeger. So that, I mean, those are very obvious. And then the last one is me wanting to get in a fast car and get the hell out of here. And life is kind of like being in a fast car. Yeah, but I understand how personal songs can be, so the choices were very personal to me.
I'm so sure you have questions. Can you wait for the microphone? You will get it over there.
Just a quick remark and then a question. First, congratulations. A woman to the left of me has been sleeping 10 minutes in the movie. That was super funny. But the question is like, even if I'm meeting young people these days and they're saying, oh, it's the end of the world. And then even in your movie, you have professors saying, okay, I don't know if tomorrow will exist in this sense. But I was wondering, like, when there was a Cold War, people were also saying, that's the end, that's it. Can you recount, while working with your notebooks, how many this sort of end of the worlds has been through your life when people were saying, that's it, nuclear weapon, we all gonna die. War in Vietnam, we all gonna die, or something like that.
Well, you're absolutely right. If you lived during the Dark Ages, I think you could talk about the end of the world. And if you lived if you were in the Vietnam War, or you lived in Vietnam during that war, or in Hanoi when we did 7 straight days of bombing on the city. There's these moments, and many of us, even though I feel like there's probably been a lot of ends of the war in the 82 years that or ends of the whatever, in the 82 years I've been here, I still feel like I've lived a privileged life. And maybe that's because I had a family that we didn't really talk, but I could feel that there was love, and I was encouraged to be a good person. So, yeah, what is good and bad is really, what's happening in the world. The world can look really bad, but you could be in a situation where the world is really good, and your particular situation is like the end of the world. There's people that experience that this very moment. But we should learn how to take care of each other. I'm hoping that that's the solution to this film. Loving your brother and sister.
Thank you, James, for the film. I find it depressing, but I find it also beautiful. And it spans quite some time, like starting 81 million years ago. And it's a tale of humanity in very concise images, starting with the dinosaurs and then building all the infrastructure, because this is what I believe the models are too. It's infrastructure, it's transport, it's economy, it's electricity, it's like all this kind of human dream of whatever, building a life. And then it ends with the bomb, so it's auto-destruction. I mean, which is sad. At the same time, I wanted to ask you, this is more a comment, but I wanted to ask you, I noticed that your films are getting shorter and shorter, which is really interesting, and I would like to maybe hear something about that from you.
Well, first I should invite all of you. I actually have a film installation in Neuger Riemschneider in Mitte that's up for the next month, and it's a 2-person show with Jan Vo, the remarkable Vietnamese artist. And I have a number of things in that show that come out of all this research I've been doing in the last 2 years. And in fact, if you want to see the little boy model and the T-Rex, it's in the gallery, so you could touch it, maybe not. But no, I think this film is really part of that exhibition, and that exhibition is really part of this film. So it broadens some of the questions that you're asking. Really can be seen in this installation, and especially then across Jan Vo's work that takes on his place in life as a Vietnamese person who left Vietnam at the age of 5 in a boat and was discovered out in the Pacific Ocean and taken into the Netherlands, where he then grew up and became a remarkable artist that is questioning these same kinds of things. So we're kind of good friends because of our work. I didn't answer your question a little bit.
Well, a James Benning film used to be really, really long in former times.
Maybe they just seem shorter now.
been training too much.
Yeah. Well, I make films the length they need to be, and maybe I get to the answer quicker now, you know. But, next time maybe it'll be longer.
Where is the microphone, or where are the questions? Cannot see so well. Please. No? Can we come back to this question of you described it as coming to the point of self-destruction towards the end. I was also wondering about the dramaturgy, because you said you started with the speeches, and then there are certain years and aspects, but then at some point they of course linked, and they somehow also do tell a story. What kind of story was that on your mind, if you conceptualize it? I don't know.
Well, as I said, I've been doing all this research into my own life to write a diary that hadn't been written, and by doing that, it's awakened all of these different years of my life that I can put into the book that I'm writing. But while I'm doing that, it's also making me think about visual problems and things I can do with film and art installation. So everything's connected. You know, it's kind of connected. I don't just make a film; it's always making me think about other things. So.
I just found it, to be more precise, I found it surprising that basically it's also the history of the militarization of the United States, or about like weaponizing and...
Yeah, and Eisenhower gave that amazing speech in January of 1960, and here he's a veteran of the Second World War. He knows how brutal war is, and he's warning the country against what has actually happened. Nobody took that seriously, I guess, his warning. But there's more lobbyists for arms manufacturers in Washington, D.C. than there are politicians. So, you know, they can gang up on those guys. It's what we get because there's so much money that can be made in war these days. And, it's criminal.
Yeah. We even have a companion film in the program this year, I would say, Leanne Schmidt's Evidence. It's coming up. I think it's a companion in the way that it also is describing this network of infrastructure, political history, but at the same time the connection to yourself, or in her case even the body and a woman's body. So yeah, how important was it to have your hands in the last image, preacher last?
Well, it's hard for me to describe what I'm actually doing in this film, because I thought, well, I want to have this really minimalist narrative that's in images and that are very loaded. And I thought, well, people's hands are loaded. And then I wanted to have something that is, you know, which shouldn't be connected to any political problems to worry about. You should be having fun in your building models. So I like that we would watch this kind of innocence of hands, but the hands would get older and older, so they should know better and better as they get older. And, I think that's what was on my mind. Yeah. But I don't want to tell you how to watch it. That's giving too much away.
Thank you for the movie again. I've been following your work, I guess, for 10, 15 years, and it seems to me that, at least in recent years, you're getting more political again, and compared to some other films, this is almost a flicker movie, and it has a lot more cuts. Is that a trend? What are you working on now? Is it just because those are the stories that you feel need to be told now?
Yeah, it basically comes out of all this research to do the writing that I'm doing for this diary, and so I'm so focused on that I couldn't think of going outside of what was coming from the research. So this film just is. Well, it's mimicking what the times I lived through, you know, and how I saw those times. I mean, I could have. There's so many things that happened in the last 80 years. It was to choose just 8 things was quite difficult. But I tried to make those choices in a way that it would represent different parts of American society, in a sense. Yeah.
Did you have alternative tries?
No, I pretty much, once I looked at a lot of things and then I gathered the speeches in. So it started with the collection of the speeches and then like figuring out what songs I wanted to do. And then I knew I wanted to do this very simplistic imaging with it, very just you know, hands doing something, and they're kind of I don't know. I thought maybe it won't even be interesting, you know, to watch the hand. I wasn't sure, and I'm still afraid to show the film. I thought maybe nobody would be here after.
I think you can relax now, by now. Also for the next screenings.
I mean, I enjoy it because they're myself and 7 of my friends' hands, and I see so much more because I know their personalities. So and in fact, Nathan Meyer is here, who did the final painting on the models, and he's hands number 7. He's my ex-Mormon friend. Yeah. Maybe he left already.
Maybe, are there more questions here? Maybe what from my side, one of the last questions would be the relation. If you say it's a companion to American Dreams, Lost and Found, what is the main point of the connection for you in this film?
When I made American Dreams, and maybe not everybody knows that film, it was a similar idea. I had a baseball card collection of Henry Aaron, and that immediately brings in race, because when he broke the Babe Ruth's record, he was threatened, death threats and all of this. And so I had a collection where I collected all the baseball cards, and then they have the kind of same innocence as this model railroading, but so I used those cards, and I used speeches and music, and when I made that film, I wasn't happy with just the music and the speeches. I thought it needed something else, like a counterpoint. And my idea with that film was really to overload the amount of information. So then I animated a diary going through the bottom of that film by Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace, who you hear in my film. And his diary is over a 6-month period where he was stalking Nixon to kill Nixon, and then never got close enough and ended up shooting George Wallace. And so that, I thought, that takes place from 1954 to 1976, which is the time Henry Aaron played baseball, but that was really my coming of age, so I always thought that as a coming of age film. So I thought this is at this time, with the way I feel about the politics in the world, I thought it needed a second addition to that, but I wouldn't overload it. I would really let you hear the whole speech, not just a little part of something. So it kind of grew out of, I think American Dreams might have been on TV in the US, and a lot of people were talking about it, so I thought, I'll make an answer to it because it seemed to be popular again.
You started off by being more or less skeptical to one of the strongest speeches, the child's speech. And you also mentioned that maybe also the fact that it's very depressing to not speak up in times like that, and also this film, I think I don't know if it makes us understand why we don't do it, but it makes us certainly understand that a big part of the problem is that this child's question of where are the goodies and where are the baddies is not to answer. And what was the time when you realized that? And how much of it is connected, of course, to the Cold War, which is so central for this film.
Like that's way
That's
too
too much.
too hard. Yeah.
Then minus the Cold War. Also, the good and the bad is also hard to answer, because the film starts when you were still a teenager. I make mathematics.
Yes. Yeah, it starts with Ricky Nelson, who died of. What did he do? He did something on his airplane that caused the plane to crash. Were they freebasing? Something like that. And Ricky Nelson was the son of Ozzie Nelson, ran a TV program in the U.S. and he and his brother were on that TV program. And Ricky and David was his brother, and my middle name is Richard or Ricky, and my brother's middle name is David, and they were the same age as us. So when we saw that program, we always thought that we were on television. But Ricky Nelson became a heartthrob for young teenage girls. He became an early kind of Beatle sensation. Do people know him? So all the songs in the film have a strong relationship to who I am and my own biography, basically.
Yeah, and I think not just your own, but also many of ours. Maybe this is a good point then, a reunion and the beginning of what you called brotherhood and sisterhood. So thank you so much, John Benning, for Little Boy.
All right, thank you. Take care of each other, all right?